Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padashitam Krishna Ganita Sri Vishakhantam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Yeah, we'll start with Mangalasharana prayers. Just a second. Yeah, we'll do that. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nite Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Panchakalpatarubhischa Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukhaṁ karoti vācālam pangum langāyate kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Denatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanyam Ishwaram. Yes. Thank you all for joining, Matais. Thank you for your time spending on reading Srila Prabhupada's small books. Thank you, Gomati Mataji, Sirisha Mataji, Samyukta Mataji, Tulsi Mataji, Vanilla Mataji. I appreciate your time. So this is the good activity, eternal activity. In other sense, it eternal activities. Why eternal activity? This fills eternal bank balance. This eternal dhana. ఇది మనకు ఉండేటువంటి ఎటర్నల్ ధన మనతో పాటు ఉంటుంది ఎప్పటికీ. ఇది నెవర్ లాస్ట్ ఇన్ దిస్ ఎండెవర్. Yes. So we read up to 7 pages. Let me increase the size of this one. Yeah. That clearly visible. Yeah. So this one. Let me read this. Kutastva kashmalam idam vishame samupastitam anarya justam asvargyam akirtikaram Arjuna. My dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? Krishna questioning to Arjuna. They are not at all befitting a man who knows the progressive values of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy. Bhagavad Gita 2.2. Krishna directly tells Arjuna that he is speaking like a non-Aryan. That is, like one who does not know the spiritual values of life. So Krishna consciousness does not mean sitting down idly. We'll read from this page, 8th page. Okay. So before that, last time Vanilla Mata asked one question, and she got answers also. Mataji, can you explain another 2-3 minutes the question answer we were discussing in the offline? Can you please explain for all of us again? Hare Krishna Mataji, Vanilla Mataji. Is it audible now, my voice?
Hare Krishna.
Right. Yes, Mataji. You can explain now itself, so that.
Sorry. Actually, Uttarayana can be interpreted in another way. Like Ayana also means that it's the resting place, and Uttarayana means one who took shelter of Uttara, which Krishna did while protecting Parikshit from Brahmastra. So Uttarayana in other way means it is Krishna. So Bhishmadev waiting for Uttarayana means Bhishmadev was waiting for Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Bhishmadev is waiting for Krishna. So that means that auspicious moment. So Uttarayana itself, another understanding is Uttarayana also a form. So these, who has created all this? Krishna has created. So these ayanas also, that Uttarayana itself is a form that is looking to serve Vishmadev. Like, in this my moment, just it's starting off. So that sun movement, right? Sun movement in south direction or north direction, Mataji? This one, they in this Uttarayana means it's north direction. I think I heard
Towards north.
towards north only. Yes. So the Uttarayana form of the time also a person. So that she wanted to serve Bhishma Dev. So in my opportune time, in my fortunate moment, I am given an opportunity. I am serving Bhishma Dev to left his body. Of course, Krishna is there, but he is looking for that time also. That time, the Uttarayana looking at Bhishma Dev. So Mata is saying that you got the point, all the devotees? What Mataji said? Samyukta Mataji, Tulasi Mataji. Actually, Gomat Mataji, please explain what Mataji said, that other understanding also. If you want.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Mataji, చెప్పండి.
ప్రభుజీ భీష్మదేవికి వరం కూడా ఉంది అన్నారు ప్రభుజీ. అంటే ఆయన చనిపోయే టైం అన్ని కూడా ఆయన అనుకున్నప్పుడే జరుగుతాయని అన్నారుగా ప్రభుజీ.
ఇచ్చామరణం. yes.
మరి ఉత్తరాయణం అంటే కృష్ణ అన్నారుగా ప్రభుజీ. మరి అంటే టైం అన్ని కూడా ఉన్నాయి కదా ప్రభుజీ, మరి దాని ఎలా తీసుకుంటారు?
Mataji, he wanted to wait for Krishna and die, Mataji. He has that పవర్, రైట్? ఇచ్చా మరణం ఉంది కాబట్టి ఆయన కృష్ణుని చూసే చనిపోదామని అలా ఉన్నాడు.
అంటే ఆ కాలగతిలో ఉత్తరాయణం చాలా శ్రేష్టమైనది అంటారు. సో రెండు ఉన్నాయి కదా ప్రభుజీ, మనకి దక్షిణాయనం ఒకటి, ఉత్తరాయణం. ఆ రెండిట్లోనూ ఉత్తరాయణం చాలా మంచిది అంటారు. సో ఆ టైం వరకు తను తన డెత్ ని ఆపుకొని, ఐ మీన్ he decided to go Krishna. First primary thing was to die in front of Krishna, and also ఇంకా కాలం తిది కూడా చూస్తారు కదా, దాని ప్రకారం ఉత్తరాయణంలో వెళ్ళాలని డిజైర్ ఉంటారు.
కరెక్ట్.
ఎలా అయితే ఏకాదశి అంటే మనకి కృష్ణ గోవిందుడితోటే సమానంగా అనుకుంటామో, అలాగే ఉత్తరాయణం కూడా గోవిందుడితోటే సమానంగా భావిస్తారు అని. దట్ ఈస్ వాట్ ఐ అండర్స్టూడ్ ఫ్రమ్ వాట్ మాతాజీ.
Correct. Right. Actually, devotees doesn't record all things. Prabhupada రాస్తాడు కదా ఇక్కడ, ఈ బుక్ లో రాసింది. Devotee doesn't, because they always think about Krishna, and these are all there, but
మేబీ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ సెటప్ చేయడానికి ఫాలో అవుతారేమో ప్రభుజీ, జస్ట్ ఫర్ అదర్ పీపుల్ టు హ్యావ్ అ గుడ్ గైడెన్స్. మీరు అన్నది కరెక్టే.
ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ అయినా అంటే ఆ టైం కోసం వెయిట్ చేయలే మాతాజీ. ఉత్తరాయణ అంటే కృష్ణ మాతాజీ, ఆయన కృష్ణుడి కోసం వెయిట్ చేశాడు, టైం కాదు మాతాజీ.
ఓకే.
ఉత్తర గర్భంలో అసలు తెలుసు కదా స్టోరీ మీ అందరికి. బ్రహ్మాస్త్ర, పరీక్షిత్ మహారాజ్.
yes ప్రభుజీ, ఆ స్టోరీ తెలుసు.
So that's the meaning. So ultimately Ichamaranam is there. Ultimately Krishna's presence also there. When he left his body, he was looking at Krishna's beautiful form and beautiful smile of Krishna, and the time also auspicious. See, devotees doesn't require, but to set an example, I mean, Uttarayana is how auspicious. Sun towards traveling to northern sphere, northern direction. Prabhupada writes, pure devotees chanting always Krishna's holy names. He is a pure devotee. See, Bhishma Dev is a pure devotee. Mahajana, one of the Mahajana, Yegata Sapanta. We have to follow the footsteps of Mahajana. Alani ఇప్పుడు మనకు, see, and he has that benediction, Icha Maranam benediction. He can leave his body. Anni చూసుకొని. But we don't have that option. What we have option? Always chant Krishna, always remember Krishna. So these ayanas doesn't much priorities. Because when we do these activities, Krishna conscious activities, Bhakti Yoga practice, when we always think about Krishna, Krishna is going to take care of that. Even though the devotee left body in Dakshinayana, doesn't matter. He always think about Krishna. That's what the final understanding. Okay. So that's the thing. Yeah. Thank you, Vanilla Mataji, for sharing. Yeah, we'll read from 8th page. Okay. Start with Mataji. Vanilla Mataji, read.
Krishna himself does not sit down idly. All his pastimes are filled with activity. When we go to the spiritual world, we will see that Krishna is always engaged in dancing, eating, and enjoying. He does not sit down to meditate. Is there any account of the gopis meditating? Did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sit down to meditate? No, he was always dancing and chanting Hare Krishna. The spirit soul is naturally active. How can we sit down silently and do nothing? It is not possible. Therefore, after Sri Krishna outlined the Sankhya yoga system in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna frankly said, Yoyam yogastvaya prokta samyena madhusudana etasyaham na pasyami chanchalatvat sthitim stiram. Now, Madhusudana Krishna, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me. For mind is restless and unsteady. Bhagavad Gita 6.33. Although Arjuna was highly elevated and Krishna's intimate friend, he immediately refused to take up this Sankhya Yoga system. In essence, he said, "It is not possible for me." How could it be possible? Arjuna was a warrior, a householder, and he wanted a kingdom. What time did he have for meditation? He flatly reduced to practice this type of meditational yoga, saying that the mind is as difficult to control as the wind. Bhagavad Gita 6.34. That is a fact. It is not possible to control the mind artificially. Therefore, we must engage the mind in Krishna consciousness. Then it is controlled. If Arjuna found this process more difficult than controlling the wind, then what of us? After all, Arjuna was not an ordinary man. He was personally talking to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, and he proclaimed the mind to be like a great wind. How can we control the wind? We can control the mind only by fixing it on Krishna's lotus feet, and that is the perfection of meditation. No one really wants to sit down and meditate. Why should we? We are meant for positive activity, for recreation, for pleasure. In Krishna consciousness, our recreation is dancing and chanting and Prabhu, can you please scroll?
Yeah. Other page, 9th page. Yeah, 9th page.
When we get tired, we take prasada. Is dancing difficult? Is chanting difficult? We don't charge anything to dance in the temple. If you go to a ballroom, you have to pay to enter. But we do not charge. It is natural to enjoy music and dancing and palatable foods. These are our recreations, and so is our method of meditation. So this yoga system is not at all laborious. It is simply recreation, susukam. It is stated in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that this yoga system is susukam, very happy. It is everlasting and is joyfully performed. It is natural, automatic, and spontaneous. It is our real life in the spiritual world. In Vaikuntha, the spiritual world, there is no anxiety. Vaikuntha means freedom from anxiety. And in the Vaikuntha, the liberated souls are always dancing, chanting, and taking prasadam. There are no factories, hard work, or technical institutions. There is no need for these artificial things. In Vedanta Sutra, it is stated, Anandamaya Vyasat. God is Anandamaya, full of bliss and pleasure. Since we are part and parcel of the Lord, we possess these same qualities. So the goal of our yoga process is to join with the Supreme Anandamaya, Sri Krishna, and to join this dance party. Then we will be actually happy. On this earth, we are trying to be happy artificially and are therefore frustrated. Once we are situated in Krishna consciousness, we will revive our original position and become simply joyful. Since our actual nature is Anandamaya, blissful, we are always
Searching.
searching for happiness. In the cities, we are inundated with advertisements. Restaurants, bars, nightclubs, and dance halls are all always announcing, come on, here is Ananda, here is pleasure. That is because everyone is searching for Ananda, pleasure. Our Society for Krishna Consciousness is also announcing, here is Ananda, but our standard of pleasure is very different. In any case, the goal of pleasure is the goal pleasure is the same.
Yes, Madhu. Thank you for reading. So our soul, what is the soul's nature? Our soul's nature and Krishna's nature.
Anandamaya Abhyasa.
Anandamaya Abhyasa. Krishna is Anandamaya Abhyasa. We are part and parcel of Krishna. We are also searching for happiness. But that happiness, flickering happiness in this Bhautika Prapancha, in this material world. Real Ananda is on the soul platform. So that's the thing. So our innate nature. Right. So here Prabhupada explains a little further here. Yeah, Samyukta Madhuri, continue from here.
Yes, Prabhuji. Most people are hunting for pleasure on the gross material platform. The more advanced search for pleasure in speculation, philosophy, poetry, or art. The Bhakti Yogi, however, searches for pleasure on the transcendental platform, and that is his only business. Why are people working so hard all day? They are thinking, tonight I shall enjoy. Tonight I will associate with this girl or
1 second. Yeah.
Or with my wife. Thus, people are going to so much trouble to acquire a little pleasure. Pleasure is the ultimate goal, but unfortunately, under illusion, people do not know where real pleasure is to be found. Real pleasure exists eternally in the transcendental form of Krishna. Perhaps you have seen pictures of Krishna, and if so, you have noticed that Krishna is always jolly. If you join his society, you will also become jolly. Have you ever seen pictures of Krishna working with a machine? Have you ever seen pictures of Krishna smoking? No, he is by nature full of pleasure. And if you unfold yourself in that way, you will also find pleasure. Pleasure cannot be found artificially. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhava Pratibha Vitabhas Tabirya Eva Nijarupataya Kalabihi Goloka Eva Nimasati Akilatma Bhuto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own dream Goloka with Radha, resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities in the company of her confident Sakhis, embodiments of the extensions of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasa. Brahma Samhita 5.37. The word rasa means taste or mellow. We enjoy sweets or candy because of their taste. Everyone is trying to enjoy some taste, and we want to enjoy sex because there is some taste there. That is called Adi taste. Material tastes are different because they are tasted and quickly finished. Material taste lasts only a few minutes. You may take a piece of candy, taste it, and say, "Oh, that is very nice." But you have to taste another in order to continue the enjoyment. Material taste is not unlimited, but real taste is without end. Spiritual taste cannot be forgotten. It goes on increasing. Anandambudhi Vardhanam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says this taste is always increasing. Spiritual taste is like the ocean in the sense that it is very great. The Pacific Ocean is
Yeah.
always
All
tossing,
yeah. Okay, Mataji.
but it is not increasing. By God's order, the ocean does not extend beyond its limit, and if it extends, there is havoc. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that there is another ocean, an ocean of transcendental bliss, an ocean that is always increasing. Anandambudhi Vardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Purnamrita Swadanam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. By chanting Hare Krishna, our pleasure potency increases more and more. One who has realized Sri Krishna is always living in Vrindavana, Vaikuntha. Although a devotee may seem to be living in some place far from Vrindavana, he is always living in Vrindavana because he knows that Krishna is present everywhere, even within the atom. The Supreme Lord is bigger than the biggest and smaller than the smallest. Once we are fully realized and established in Krishna consciousness, we never lost sight of Krishna, and our bliss is always increasing. This is the true yoga system, Bhakti Yoga, as expounded by Lord Sri Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna.
Straightforward, pretty simple. Yes. ఫ్లిక్కరింగ్ హ్యాపీనెస్ అంటే మన టంగ్ టేస్ట్ ఆల్సో. ఎంతవరకు అది ఆ టైం వరకే ఆకలి ఉన్నప్పుడు, మంచి ఆకలి అయినప్పుడు తీసుకుంటాం ప్రసాదం. ఎంత కపుల్ ఆఫ్ అవర్సే ఉంటుంది అది. మళ్ళీ నైట్ కాగానే మళ్ళీ ఆకలిస్తుంది. దట్ ఈస్ అన్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్. షుగర్ ఒక క్యాండీ గురించి చెప్పాడు ప్రభుపాద ఎగ్జాంపుల్. అట్లనే ఇట్స్ టెంపరరీ, బట్ ఇన్ ద స్పిరిచువల్ లైఫ్, స్పిరిచువాలిటీ it's always never last, actually ever increasing, never last, ever increasing. It's called Anandambudhi Vardhanam. See, the real happiness is there in the spirituality and this process only. Material world and all temporary only. The happiness also is temporary. Yes. Chapter 2, yeah, mastering the mind and senses. I say good number of devotees here. Gomati Mata, please continue.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yam sannyasam iti prahur yogam tam vidhi pandava nahi asanyaso sankalpo yogi bhavati kashchan. What is called renunciation is the same as yoga or linking oneself with the Supreme. For no one can become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. Bhagavad Gita 6.2. This is the real purpose of the practice of yoga. The word yoga means to join. Although we are naturally part and parcel of the Supreme, in our conditioned state, we are now separated. Because of our separation, we are reluctant to understand God and to speak of our relationship with Him, and are even inclined to think of such discussion as a waste of time. In a church or in a Krishna consciousness temple, we speak of God, but people in general are not very interested. They think it is waste of time, a kind of recreation in the name of spiritual advancement, and they believe that this time could be better used to earn money or enjoy themselves in a nightclub or restaurant. Therefore, it is due to sense enjoyment that we are not attracted to God. And therefore, it is said that those who are addicted to sense enjoyment cannot become yogis. That is, they are not eligible to participate in the yoga system. One cannot advance in any yoga system if he partakes in sense gratification and then sits down to try to meditate. This is just a colossal hoax. Such Contradictory activity has no meaning. First of all, yoga means controlling the senses, yama niyama. There are 8 stages of yoga: yama, niyama, asana, dhyana, dharana, pranayama,
Pranayama.
pranayama, pratyahara, and samadhi. In this 6th chapter, in which the Lord speaks of the Sankhya Yoga system, he states from the very beginning that one cannot become a yogi unless one renounces the desire for sense gratification. Therefore, if one indulges his senses, he cannot be accepted as a yogi. Yoga demands strict celibacy. In the yoga system, there is no sex life. If one indulges in sex, he cannot be a yogi. Many so-called yogis come from India to America and say, yes, you can do whatever you like. You can have as much as sex as you like. Just meditate. I will give you some mantra and you will give me some money. This is all nonsense. According to the authoritative statements of Sri Krishna, one cannot become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. This is explicitly stated as the first condition for yoga practice. Arurukshor muner yogam karma karanam uchyate yoga ruddhasya tasyaiva sama karanam uchyate. For one who is a neophyte in the eightfold yoga system, work is said to be the means, and for one who has already attained to yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. Bhagavad Gita 6.3. According to this verse, there are those who are attempting to reach the perfectional stage and those who have already attained that stage. As long as one is not situated on the perfectional platform, he must engage in so many works. In the West, there are many yoga societies attempting to practice the asana system, and therefore they practice sitting in different postures. That may help, but it is not only a process by which one can attain the real platform. The real yoga system in its perfectional stage is far different from these bodily gymnastics.
Body gymnastics. Very good. Thank you, Madhu. Thank you. So next, Pallavi Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Are you able to read, Mataji?
Yeah, I will read, Prabhuji.
Yeah, you can just one. It is important.
Yeah. It is important to understand, however, that from the beginning, a Krishna conscious person is situated on the platform of meditation because he is always thinking of Krishna. Being constantly engaged in the service of Krishna, he is considered to have ceased all material activities. Yada hi nendriyatreshu na karmasva anusajjate sarva sankalpa sannyasi yoga rudhasta dochate. A person is said to have attained to yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. This is actually the perfectional stage of yoga, and one who has attained this stage is said to have attained to yoga. This is to say that he has connected, joined, or linked himself with the supreme whole. If a part is disconnected from a machine, it serves no function, but as soon as it is properly attached to the machine, it works properly and carries out its different functions. That is the meaning of yoga, joining with the supreme whole. Serving is conjunction with the total machine, serving in conjunction with the total machine. Presently, we are disconnected, and our material fruitive activities are simply a waste of time. One who engages in such activity is described in Bhagavad Gita as a
Mudha.
Mudha. This is
Mudha.
a rascal. Mudha. That is a rascal. Although one may earn thousands of dollars daily and be an important businessman, he is described in Bhagavad Gita as a Mudha, rascal, because he is just wasting his time in eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. People do not stop to consider that they are actually working very hard for nothing. One who earns millions of dollars cannot really eat much more than a man who makes $10. A man who earns millions of dollars cannot mate with millions of women. That is not within his power. His mating power is the same as one who earns $10, just as his power of eating is the same. This is to say that our power of enjoyment is limited. One should therefore think, my enjoyment is the same as that of the man who is earning $10 daily. So why am I working so hard?
16 page. Yeah.
To earn millions of dollars? Why am I wasting my energy? I should engage my time and energy in understanding God. That is the purpose of life. If one has no economic problems, he has sufficient time to understand Krishna consciousness. If he wastes this precious time, he is called a muda, a rascal, or an ass. According to the preceding verse, a person is said to have attained yoga when he has renounced all material desires. Once we are situated perfectly in yoga, we are satisfied. We no longer experience material desires. We no longer act for sense gratification or engage in fruitive activity. When we speak of fruitive activity, we refer to activities carried out for the purpose of sense gratification. That is, we are earning money in order to gratify our senses. If one is virtuous, he engages in pious activities. He donates money to charities, opens hospitals, schools, etc. Although these are certainly virtuous activities, they are ultimately meant for sense gratification. How is this? If I donate to an educational institution, for instance, I will receive good educational facilities and will become highly educated in my next life. Being thus educated, I will attain a good position and we will acquire a good amount of money. Then how will I utilize this money? For sense gratification. Thus, these virtuous and fruitive activities form a kind of cycle. We often hear the expression a better standard of life. But what does this mean? It is said that the standard of life in America is superior to that in India. But in both countries, there is eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. Of course, in America, the quality of food may be better, but the eating process is there. A superior standard of life does not mean superior spiritual realization. It just means better eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. This is called fruitive activity, and it is based on sense gratification. Yoga has nothing to do with the sense gratification or fruitive activity. Yoga means connecting with the Supreme. Dhruva Maharaja underwent severe austerities in order to see God. And when he finally saw God, he said, Swamin Kratartha, Smivaram na yase. My dear Lord, I am now fully satisfied. My dear Lord, I am now fully satisfied. I am not asking for anything more. I do not want any further benediction from you. Why didn't Dhruva Maharaja ask for benedictions? What is a
17 page.
What is a benediction? Generally, benediction means receiving a great kingdom, a beautiful wife, palatable food, and so forth. But when one is actually connected with God, he does not want such benedictions. He is fully satisfied. Swamin Kritartho, Smi Varam Yase. Actually, Dhruva Maharaja initially searched for God in order to attain his father's kingdom. Dhruva Maharaja's mother was rejected by his father, and his stepmother resented his sitting on his father's lap. Indeed, she forbade him to sit on his father's lap because Dhruva Maharaja was not born in her womb. Although only 5 years old, Dhruva Maharaja was a Kshatriya, and he took this as a great insult. Going to his own mother, he said, Mother, my stepmother has insulted me by forbidding me to sit on my father's lap. Dhruva Maharaja then started to cry, and his mother said, My dear boy, what can I do? Your father loves your stepmother more than he loves me. I can do nothing. Dhruva Maharaja then said, But I want my father's kingdom. Tell me how I can get it. My dear boy, my dear boy, his mother said, if Krishna God blesses you, you can get it. Where is God? Dhruva Maharaja asked. Oh, it is said that God is in the forest, his mother said. Great sages go to the forest to search for God. Hearing this, Dhruva Maharaja went directly to the forest and began to perform severe penances. Finally, he saw God, and when he saw him, he no longer desired his father's kingdom. Instead, he said, My dear Lord, I was searching for some pebbles, but instead I have found valuable jewels. I no longer care for my father's kingdom. Now I am fully satisfied. When one is actually connected with God, he is totally satisfied. His satisfaction is infinitely greater than so-called enjoyment in this material world. That is the satisfaction resulting from God's realization, and that is the perfection of yoga.
Yeah, Mataji. రెండు పాయింట్స్ యాడ్ చేయండి బై రీడింగ్ దిస్. ఏం చెప్తున్నాము ఫైనల్, ఏం చెప్తున్నాడు శ్రీల ప్రభుపాద?
ఫైనలీ ఏం చెప్తున్నాడంటే ఎంత చారిటీ చేసినా వేస్టే, గాడ్ తో కనెక్ట్ అవ్వండి చాలు అని చెప్తున్నాడు. అదే అర్థం ప్రభుజీ. అంటే దీంట్లో కొత్త విషయం తెలిసిందంటే వి ఆల్వేస్ ట్రై టు డూ గుడ్ థింగ్స్. అది కూడా అంటే మనం మంచి జన్మలో మంచిగా ఉండడానికే కదా, అదైతే క్లియర్ గా అర్థమైంది. అంటే పాయింట్ అవుట్ చేశారు కదా ఇక్కడ. సో నథింగ్ ఈజ్ అల్టిమేట్ దెన్ కనెక్టింగ్ టు గాడ్,
సుప్రీం హోల్ లింక్ కనెక్టెడ్.
సో whatever we are doing is merely wasting the time.
Yes.
Other than these 2 hours.
సో అదే ఎగ్జాంపుల్ కూడా చెప్పాడు కదా, ఎన్ని మిలియన్ డాలర్స్ ఉన్నా కూడా ఎంత తింటాడు. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్, ప్రభుపాద చేసిన ఎగ్జాంపుల్ రైట్, $10 తినే ఒక మామూలు వ్యక్తులంతానే తింటాడు ఎన్ని మిలియన్ డాలర్లు ఉన్నా కూడా. సో వై ఆర్ వి వేస్టింగ్ టైమ్ ఇన్ eating, sleeping, mating and defending, those 4 activities, ahara, nidra, bhayam, aidhanam. So when we connect to Supreme, we are fully satisfied. So that's what Dhruva Maharaja example also Prabhupada quoting. So he wanted to search for God. When God appears, by looking at God's beautiful form, he forgot everything. I'm completely got the satisfaction. I don't need any kingdom. But Krishna knows, devotees' desire. And he has given the special planet called Dhruva Loka and given to Dhruva Maharaj. That's a different thing. But as soon as he sees the form of Supreme Lord, was fully satisfied and nothing else. I don't want any king. I'm fully satisfied. That's it. So when we connect to the spirituality and Krishna, that's also leads to satisfaction. We get fulfillment in our life, and we get that fully satisfaction because it connects what? Supreme personality of God at Krishna. Ikkada ee material things lo we cannot find the happiness. Only spiritual life lone untadi. That's what all about in these paragraphs. Prabhupada explaining with the different examples. So how do we connect with the Supreme Lord and the Supreme Whole and spirituality? How do we connect? What is the process? మనం కనెక్ట్ కావాలంటే ఏంటిది ప్రాసెస్? ఏమి ఇచ్చారు మనకు పరంపర? హరే కృష్ణ. కృష్ణ కాన్షియస్నెస్ ప్రాక్టీస్ చేయాలి అంటే చాంటింగ్ చేయాలి. నేను అన్నది జస్ట్ చాంటింగ్ చేస్తే వీఆర్ టువర్డ్స్, of course, that is what connection, right? We are establishing our connection, lost relationship with Krishna by chanting our holy names, chanting Krishna's names. That way we are re-establishing our connection, reviving, Prabhupada writes, that's reviving dormant or awakening dormant Krishna consciousness. It was in a sleepy mode. When we chant, it penetrates, and it awakens the love of God, our connection with Supreme. Then when we connect with Supreme, that's it. That's what the goal is. Ultimately, the chanting leads to establish our connection with Krishna. Yes, Mataji. Sirisha Mataji, please go ahead. Read from this.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji.
When a person is fully engaged in the...
When a person
When a person is fully engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he is pleased in himself, and thus he is no longer engaged in sense gratification or in fruitive activities. Otherwise, one must be engaged in sense gratification, since one cannot live without engagement. It is impossible to
Cease.
cease all activity. As stated before, it is our nature as living entities to act. It is mind is the central point of yoga practice. Mind is the central point of yoga.
ఇక్కడ ఏ చదువుతున్నాం కదా 18 పేజ్ ఇది. An ideal mind.
Said an idle mind is the devil's workshop. If we have no Krishna consciousness engagement, we will engage the sense gratification or fruitive activity. If a child is not trained or educated, he becomes spoiled. If one does not practice the yoga system, if he does not attempt to control his senses by the yoga process, he will engage his senses in their own gratification. When one is gratifying his senses, there is no question of practicing yoga. Without Krishna consciousness, one must be always seeking self-centered or extended selfish activities. But a Krishna conscious person can do everything for the satisfaction of Krishna and thereby be perfectly detached from sense gratification. One who has not realized Krishna being elevated to the top rank of the yoga ladder. One compare the yoga system to a step ladder. One yogi may be situated in the 5th step. Another yogi may be on the 5th step, and yet another on the 500th step. The purpose of course is to reach the top. Though the entire ladder called yoga system, one who is on the 5th step is not God, Krishna. Fifth step is not equal to one who is higher. One who is on the 5th step is not equal to one who is higher up. In Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna delineates a number of yoga systems: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. All of these systems connect God, just as the entire ladder is connected to the topmost floor. This is not to say that everyone practicing the yoga system is situated on the topmost floor. Only he who is in full Krishna consciousness is so situated. Others are situated on different steps of the yogic ladder.
Okay. Internet somehow feeble. I'm unable to hear. Everybody hearing? Hare Krishna.
కంటిన్యూ చేయాలి ప్రభుజీ.
ఇవి కంటిన్యూ చేయండి, చదవండి. ఇంటర్నెట్ ఎందుకో మధ్యలో డిస్కనెక్ట్ అయింది. చదవండి. ఉద్ధారే
ఉద్ధారేద్ ఆత్మనాత్మనాం నత్మాత్మనాం అవసద్యేత్ ఆత్మైవ హే ఆత్మనో బుద్ధిర్ ఆత్మైవ రిపురాత్మనా. A man must elevate himself by his own mind, not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. Bhagavad Gita 6.5. The word Atma denotes body, mind and soul depending on different circumstances. In the yoga system, the mind and the conditioned soul are especially important since the
mind is the central point.
Since the mind is the central point of yoga practice. Atma refers here to the mind. The purpose of the yoga system is to control the mind and to draw it away from attachment to sense objects. It is stressed herein that the mind must be so trained that it can deliver the conditioned soul from the mire of lessons. In the Ashtanga Yoga system, these eightfold yogas, dhyana, dharana, etc., are meant to control the mind. Sri Krishna explicitly states that a man must utilize his mind to elevate himself. Unless one can control the mind, there is no question of elevation. The body is like a chariot and the mind is the driver. If you tell your driver, please take me to the Krishna temple, the driver will take you there. But if you tell him, please take me to that liquor house, you will go there. It is the driver's business to take you wherever you like. If you can control the driver, he will take you where you should go. But if not, he will ultimately take you wherever he likes. If you have no control over your driver is your enemy. But if he acts according to your orders, he is your friend. The yoga system is meant to control the mind in such a way that the mind will act as your friend. Sometimes the mind acts as a friend and sometimes as an enemy, because we are part and parcel of the Supreme, who has infinite independence. We have minute or finite dependence. It is the mind that is controlling that independence, and therefore he may either take us to the Krishna temple or to some nightclub. It is the purpose of this Krishna consciousness movement to fix the mind on Krishna. When the mind is so fixed, he cannot do anything but act as our friend. He has no scope to act any other way. As soon as Krishna is seated in the mind, there is light, just as when the sun is in the sky, darkness is vanished. Krishna is just like the sun, and when he is present, there is no scope for darkness. If we keep Krishna on our mind, the darkness of Maya will never be able to enter. Keeping the mind fixed on Krishna is the perfection of yoga. If the mind is strongly fixed on the Supreme, it will not allow any nonsense to enter, and there will be no fall down. If the mind is strong, the driver is strong, and we may go wherever we may desire. The entire yoga system is meant to make the mind strong.
Make
the strong to make it incapable of deviating from the Supreme.
Yes, Mataji. So what is the path of perfection? Then Prabhupada answers in this previous paragraph.
Yeah.
What is that perfection, path of perfection?
But a yoga ladder to we should reach to Krishna Prabhuji. Practicing.
Keeping mind.
Our,
Statement. This is the statement.
keeping the mind
Keeping the
fixed on
mind
Krishna.
fixed on Krishna is the perfection of yoga. So what is that path? Path of perfection. Then how? What is the path given? Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is the path. Yes. Thank you, Mataji. Prabhu is later. Okay. Lakshmi Mataji, Hare Krishna Mataji, you want to read? Hare Krishna, Lakshmi Mataji. Okay. Vendela Mataji, Malay start.
Hare Krishna. Save mana Krishna padara vindayo. One should fix his mind on Krishna, just as Ambarish Maharaj did when he had a fight with the great Ashtanga yogi named Durvasa Muni. Since Ambarish Maharaja was a householder, he was a pounds shillings man. This means he had to take into account pounds, shillings, and
Expense.
Sixpence or dollars and cents. Apart from being a householder, Maharaj Ambrisha was also a great king and devotee. Durvasa Muni was also a yogi who happened to be very envious of Maharaj Ambrisha. Durvasa Muni was thinking, I am a great yogi and I can travel in space.
Yeah.
This man is an ordinary king and he does not possess such Vedic powers. Still, people pay him more honor. Why is this? I will teach him a good lesson. Durvasa Muni then proceeded to pick up a quarrel with Maharaj Ambrisha. But because the king was always thinking of Krishna, he managed to defeat this great yogi. Durvasa Muni was consequently directed by Narayana to take shelter of the lotus feet, to take shelter at the feet of Maharaj Ambrisha. Durvasa Muni was such a perfect yogi that within a year he could travel throughout the material universe and also penetrate the spiritual universe. Indeed, he went directly to the
Mother, you're not able to see.
the abode of God Vaikuntha and saw the personality of Godhead himself. Yet Durvasa Muni was so weak that he had to return to the earth and fall at the feet of Maharaj Ambrisha. Maharaj Ambrisha was an ordinary king, but his great qualification was he was always thinking of Krishna. Thus, his mind was always controlled, and he was situated the highest perfectional level of yoga. We also can very easily control the mind by keeping it fixed at the lotus feet of Krishna within. Simply by thinking of Krishna, we become victorious conquerors, topmost yogis. Yoga in Indriya Samyama. The yoga system is meant to control the senses, and since the mind is above senses, if we can control the mind, our senses will automatically be controlled. Tongue may want to eat something improper, but if mind is strong, it can say, no, you cannot eat this. You can only eat Krishna Prasada. In this way, tongue as well as all other senses can be controlled by the mind. Indriyani parani andriyabhya. Can you please scroll?
Yeah. Paramana. కంటిన్యూ చేయండి. ఇక్కడ శ్లోకం ఉంటుంది కదా, ఏంటది? ఇంద్రియాని పరాని అహుర్ ఇంద్రియేభ్య పరం మనః. యా, ఇక్కడ చదవండి. The material body.
Not able to see.
No, same file only. Maybe internet loading issue.
Okay.
Other devotees are seeing.
I'm able to see, Prabhupada. I'm able to see.
Achha, you are able to see. Okay.
Maybe my network issue.
ఇప్పుడు ఓకేనా?
Now I'm able to see, Prabhu. Paramana. The material body consists of the senses and consequently the body's activities are essential activities. However, above the senses is the mind, and above the mind is intelligence, and above the intelligence is the spirit soul. If one is on the spiritual platform, his intelligence, mind, and senses are all spiritualized. The purpose of Krishna consciousness process is to actualize the spiritualization of senses, mind, and intelligence. The spirit soul is superior to all, but because he is sleeping, he has given power of attorney to the fickle mind. However, when the soul is awakened, he is once again master, and the servile mind cannot act improperly. Once we are awakened in Krishna consciousness, the intelligence, mind, and cannot act nonsensically. They must act in accordance with the vibrations of the spirit soul. That is spiritualization and purification. Shrishikena sevanam bhaktirutyate. We must serve the master of senses with the senses. The spiritual lord is called Hrishikesha, which means he is the original controller of the senses. Just as king is the original controller of all activities in a state, and the citizens are secondary controllers. Bhakti means acting spiritually in accordance with the desires of Hrishikesha. How can we act? Since we must act with our senses, we must spiritualize our senses in order to act properly. As stated before, sitting in silent meditation means
Means stopping undesirable activity.
Stopping undesirable activity. But acting in Krishna consciousness is transcendental. The cessation of nonsensical action is not in itself perfection. We must act perfectly. Unless we train our senses to act in accordance with the undesirable activity, with Hrishikesha, the master of senses, our senses will again engage in undesirable activities and we fall down. Therefore, we must engage our senses in for Krishna, and in this way remain firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness. In material existence, one is subjected to the influence of the mind and senses. In fact, the pure soul is entangled in the material world because of the mind's ego, which desires to lord over material nature. Therefore, the mind should be trained so that it will not be attracted to the glitter of material nature, and in this way, the conditioned soul may be saved. One should not degrade.
Oneself by attraction to sense objects.
I think when you're changing pages, I'm losing.
Okay. Same screen share. Acha. Now load ayinda?
Ledhu Prabha, it's taking some time, I think, for me.
Okay. It's okay. Yeah.
Oneself by attractions to sense objects, the more we are attached to sense objects, the more one becomes entangled in material existence. The best way to disentangle oneself is to always engage in the mind in Krishna consciousness. The word he in this verse 5, chapter 6, Bhagavad Gita is used to emphasize this point, namely that one must do this. It is also said, Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayo bandaya visaya sangi muktyai nirvisayam manaha. For man, mind is the cause of bondage, and mind is the cause of liberation. Mind observed in sense objects is the cause of bondage, and mind detached from sense object is the cause of liberation. Vishnu Purana 6.7.29. The mind which is always engaged in Krishna consciousness is the cause of supreme liberation. When the mind is engaged in Krishna consciousness, there is no chance of it being engaged in Maya consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, we remain in the sunlight, and there is no chance of our being obscured by darkness. Because we have freedom or liberty, we can stay within a dark room or go out into the broad daylight. This is our choice. Darkness can be eradicated by light, but light cannot be covered by darkness. If we are in a dark room and someone brings in a lamp, the darkness is vanquished. But we cannot take darkness into the sunlight. That is impossible. The darkness will simply fade away. Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andhakara. Krishna is the sunlight, and Maya is like darkness. How can darkness exist in sunlight? If we always keep ourselves in the sunlight, darkness will fail to act upon us. This is the whole philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Always engage in Krishna consciousness activities, and Maya will be dissipated just as darkness is dissipated when there is light. This is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.4.
Srimad Bhagavatam.
Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite male.
Okay, Mataji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much
Hare.
for reading. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
So Krishna is like sunlight and Maya is like darkness. So darkness will fail to act upon us when we always keeps in the sunlight. That means this is the whole philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Always engage in Krishna conscious activities. Maya will be dissipated. Maya will be defeated. Just as darkness is dissipated when there is light. This is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.4. Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite male apasyat purusham purnam mayam cha tad apashrayam. When the sage Vyasadeva, under the instruction of his spiritual master Narada, fixed his mind, perfectly engaging it by linking it in devotional service, Bhakti Yoga, without any tinge of materialism, Vyasadeva saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy, which was under full control. That's what the example is given from Bhagavatam. Fixed our mind in Krishna conscious activities. So there is no question of Maya affect us. Yeah. ఇక్కడ ఇంతకుముందు దీంట్లో కూడా ఏం చెప్పారు ఇంతకుముందు మాయా కృష్ణ సూర్య సమ మాయాహాయ అంధకార కృష్ణ సూర్య సమ మాయాహాయ అంధకార Krishna is a light, Maya is darkness. When Krishna is present, when sunlight is always present, then there is no question of darkness, always in light. That way, if this quote, Prabhupada quotes this verse from Bhagavatam. When the Vyasadeva, under instruction of his spiritual master Narada Muni, fixed his mind. Who fixed his mind? Vyasadeva. Perfectly engaging it by linking it in devotion service, Bhakti Yoga, without any tinge of materialism. Vyasadeva saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy, which was under full control. Then Bhagavatam comes into play. He explained about the pure devotional service. See, what is the book that leads to pure devotional service? What is the scripture? Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam Amalam Puranam, Vaishnavanam. So this is Amala Puranam. pure, it leads to pure devotional service. Bhagavatam, that's why we emphasize reading Bhagavatam, because it talks about Krishna's interactions with his devotees and devotees' mindset towards Lord. That's explained in Bhagavatam in different pastimes. Right. So from this section, Samyukta Madhuri, please read quickly. Another 13-15 minutes we have. Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji. The word Manasi refers to the mind. When one is enlightened in Bhakti Yoga, the mind becomes completely freed from the contamination. Samyak Pranihite Male. When Vyasa saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he saw Maya in the background. Mayam Chatat Apashrayam. Whenever there is light, there is also the possibility of darkness being present. That is, darkness is the other side of light, or darkness is under the shelter of light. Just as if I hold my hand up to the light, the top part of my hand will be in light and the bottom part will be shaded. In other words, one side is light and the other darkness. When Vyasadeva saw Krishna, the Supreme Lord, he also saw Maya, darkness, under his shelter. And what is this Maya? This is explained in the next verse of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.5. Yaya Sammohito Jiva Atmanam Trigunaatmakam Paropi Manute Nattam Tatkritam Cha- Chabipadayate. Due to the external energy, the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes of material nature, thinks of himself as a material product and thus undergoes the reactions of material miseries. Thus, the illusory energy has temporarily covered the conditioned souls. And who are these conditioned souls? Although finite, the conditioned spirit souls are as full of light as Krishna. The problem is that the conditioned soul identifies himself with this material world. This is called illusion, false identification with matter. Although the individual spirit soul is transcendental, he engages with improper activities under the dictation of
Maya.
Maya, and this brings about this conditioning or false identification. This is very elaborately explained in the 7th chapter, 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. In conclusion, our actual position is that of spiritual sparks full of light. Now we are temporarily covered by this illusory energy, Maya, which is dictating to us. Acting under the influence of Maya, we are becoming more and more entangled in the material energy. The yoga system is meant to disentangle us, and the perfection of yoga is Krishna consciousness. Thus, Krishna consciousness is the most effective means by which we can disentangle ourselves from the influence of the material energy.
Yeah. Disentangle. How can we disentangle? By keeping always in the Krishna consciousness.
Engage the services in Krishna consciousness.
Krishna services. Yes. Right, Mataji. Yeah. Yeah. Other devotees. Thank you, Mataji.
Yes, sir. Correct.
Yes. Chapter 3, learning how to see God. Actually, Lakshmi Mataji, would you like to read?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavad Pranam.
Yeah. Lakshmi Mataji, then later Gomati Mataji, then Pallavi Mataji.
Okay. Chapter 3, learning how to see God. Bandhur Atmatmanas Tasya Enat Maivatmana Jita Anatmanas tu Shatrutve Varte Tat Maiva Shatruvat. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends, but for the one who fails to do so, his very mind will be the greatest enemy. Bhagavad Gita 6.6. The purpose of yoga system is to make the mind into a friend instead of an enemy. In material context, the mind is in a kind of a drunken condition, as stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhyalila 20.117. Krishna Bhuli se Jiva Anadi Bahirmukha Ate Atayeva Maya Tare Deva Deya Samsara Dukha. Forgetting Krishna, the living entity has been attracted by the Lord's external feature from time immemorial. Therefore, The illusory energy, Maya, gives him all kinds of misery in his material existence. The living entity is constitutionally spirit soul, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. As soon as the mind is contaminated, the living entity, because he has a little independence, rebels. In this state, the mind dictates, why should I serve Krishna God? Thus, one labors under a false impression and his life is spoiled. We try to conquer many things, even empires, but if we fail to conquer the mind, we are failures, even if we manage to conquer an empire. Even though emperors, we will have within us our greatest enemy, our own mind.
Slow.
जितात्मनः जितात्मनः प्रशान्तस्य परमात्मा समाहितः शीतोष्ण सुखदुःखेषु तथा मानापमानयोः. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained a tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. Bhagavad Gita 6.7. Actually, every living entity is intended to abide by the dictation of
Sorry.
dictation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. When the mind is misled by the external illusory energy, one becomes entangled in material activities. Therefore, as soon as one's mind is controlled through one of the yoga systems, one is to be considered as having already reached the destination. One has to abide by superior dictation. When the mind is fixed on the superior nature, he has no other alternative but to follow the dictation of the Supreme. The mind must admit some superior dictation and follow it. When the mind is controlled, our one automatically follows the dictation of the Paramatma or Super Soul. Because this transcendental position is at once achieved by one who is in Krishna consciousness, the devotee of the Lord is unaffected by the dualities of material existence, distress and happiness, cold and heat, etc. The state is called samadhi or absorption in the Supreme. Gnana, Vignana, Triptatma, Kutasto, Vijitendriyah, Yukta iti Yuchyate yogi, Samalostrasma Kanchanaha. A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. Bhagavad Gita 6.8. Learning
Yeah.
how to book knowledge without realization of the supreme truth is useless. This is stated as follows. Ata Sri Krishna namadi na bhaved grahyam indriyah sevon mukhehi jihvadav swayam eva spurate adaha. No one can understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, quality, and pastimes of Sri Krishna through his material contaminated senses. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord, or the transcendental name, form, quality, and pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. Padma Purana. There are men in the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And to reclaim all these conditioned souls, there are 18 Puranas. 6 Puranas are meant for those in the mode of goodness, 6 for those in the mode of passion, and 6 for those in the mode of ignorance. The Padma Purana is written for those in the mode of goodness, because there are many different types of men. There are many different Vedic rituals. In the Vedic literature, there are descriptions of rituals and ceremonies in which a goat may be sacrificed in the presence of goddess Kali. This is described in the Markandeya Purana.
But this Purana is meant for the instruction of those in the mode of ignorance. It is very difficult for one to give up his attachments all at once. If one is addicted to meat eating and is suddenly told that he must not eat meat, he cannot do so. He cannot do so. If one is attached to drinking liquor and is suddenly told that liquor is no good, he cannot accept this advice. Therefore, in the Quran, we find certain instructions that say, in essence, all right, if you want to eat meat, just worship the goddess Kali and sacrifice a goat for us, for her, and for her. Only then can you eat meat. Can you eat meat? You cannot eat meat just by purchasing it from the butcher shop. No, there must be sacrifice for or restriction. In order to sacrifice a goat to the goddess Kali, one must make arrangements for a certain date and utilize certain paraphernalia. That types of that type of that type of puja or worship is allowed on the night of on the night of the dark moon, which means once a month. There are also certain mantras to be chanted when the goat is sacrificed. The goat is told your life is being sacrificed before the goddess Kali, you will therefore be immediately promoted to the human form. Generally, in order to attain the human form, a living entity has to pass through many species of life, any species of life of the on the evolutionary scale. But if a god is sacrificed to the goddess Kali, he is immediately promoted to the human form. The mantra also says you have the right to kill this man who is sacrificing you. The word mamsa indicates that in his next birth the goat will eat the flesh of the man who is presently sacrificing him. This in itself should bring the goat eater to his senses. He should consider, why am I eating this flesh? Why am I doing this? I'll have to repay with my own flesh in another life. The whole idea is to discourage one from eating meat. Thus, because there are different types of men, there are 18 Puranas to guide them. The Vedic literatures are meant to redeem all men, not just a few. It is not that those who are meat eaters or drunkards are rejected. A doctor accepts all patients and he prescribes different medicines according to the disease. It is not that he gives the same medicine for all diseases or that he treats just one disease. No, he offers a sacrifice specific type of medicine to whomever comes, and the patient receives gradual treatment. However, the Sattvic Puranas like the Padma Purana are meant for those in the mode of goodness, for those who immediately are capable of worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Brahma Samhita, it is stated, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha. The Supreme Controller is Krishna, who has an eternal, blissful spiritual body. This is the Vedic pronouncement, and we thus accept Sri Krishna as the Supreme Lord. Those who are in the mode of passion and ignorance attempt to imagine the form of God, and when they are confused, they say, oh, there is no personal God. God is impersonal or void. This is just the result of frustration. Actually, God has his form. And why not? And why not? According to the Vedanta Sutra, Janmadi Asya Yataha. The Supreme Absolute Truth is He from whom everything emanates. It is easy to see that we have different types of bodies, different types of forms. We must consider where these forms are coming from. Where have these forms originated? We have to use a little common sense. If God is not a person, how can his sons be persons? If your father is just a void, if he is not a person, how can you be a person? If your father has no form, how can you have a form? This is not very difficult. It is just a common sense question. Unfortunately, because people are frustrated, they try to imagine some form, or they conclude that because this material form is temporary and troublesome, God must be formless. Indeed, because all forms in this material world must perish, God of necessity must be formless. Brahma Samhita specifically states that this conception is a mistake. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha. God has form, but his form is Sachidananda Vigraha. Sat means eternal, Chit means knowledge, and Ananda means pleasure. God has form, but his form is eternal and he is full of knowledge and pleasure. We cannot compare his form to our form. Our form is neither eternal, full of pleasure, nor full of knowledge. Therefore, God's form is different. As soon as we speak of form, we think that form must be like ours, and we therefore conclude that the eternal, all knowing, and all blissful God must be without form. This is not knowledge, but the result of imperfect speculation. According to Padma Purana, Ata Shri Krishna Namadina Bhavet Grahyam Indriyaha. One cannot understand the form, name, quality, or paraphernalia of God with one's material senses. Since our senses are imperfect, we cannot speculate on him who is supremely perfect. That is not possible. Prabhuji, 1 minute, Prabhuji, I'll be back.
That's okay. Yeah, thank you. It's okay, Mataji. Yep. We'll read another 5 minutes, then we'll wrap up. Okay. Yeah. Gomati Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, yes, please.
Yeah, another 5, max 10, 8, 10 or 8:15. Let us conclude. Let us read some more pages.
Then how is it possible to understand him? Sevonmukehi jihwadau. By training and purifying our senses, we may come to understand and see God. Presently, we are attempting to understand God with impure, imperfect senses. It is like someone with cataracts trying to see. Just because one has cataracts, he should not conclude that there is nothing to be seen. Similarly, we cannot presently conceive of God's form. But once our cataracts are removed, we can see. According to Brahma Samhita, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hrudayeshu Vilokayanti. The devotees whose eyes are anointed with the ointment of love
Of God.
love of God can see God within their hearts 24 hours a day. Purification of the senses is what is required. Then we can understand the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of God. Then we will be able to see God everywhere and in everything. Prabhuji, can Tanmay read a couple of lines?
Why not, Mataji?
These matters.
These matters are discussed thoroughly in the Vedic or
Vedic literatures.
Vedic literatures or lex.
For instance,
it is said that although God has no hands or legs, he can accept whatever we offer. Apani Padu Yavano Padu Grita. It is also stated that although God has neither eyes nor ears, he can see and hear everything. These are apparent contradictions, but they are meant to teach us an important lesson.
Thank you. When we speak of seeing, we think of material vision. Due to our material conception, we think that the eyes of God must be like ours. Therefore, in order to remove these material conceptions, the Vedic literatures say that God has no hands, legs, eyes, ears, etc. God has eyes, but his vision is infinite. He can see in darkness and he can see everywhere at once. Therefore, he has different eyes. Similarly, God has ears and can hear. He may be in his kingdom, millions of miles away, but he can hear us whispering. Because he is sitting within, we cannot avoid God seeing, hearing, or touching. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yomo bhaktya prayachanti tadaham bhaktya upartam asnami prayatatmanaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. Bhagavad Gita 9.26. If God does not have senses, how can he accept and eat the offerings that are presented to him? According to ritual, we are offering Krishna food daily, and we can see that the taste of this food is immediately changed. This is a practical example. God eats, but because he is full, he does not eat like us. It is, if I offer you a plate of food, you will eat it and it will be finished. God is not hungry, but he eats and at the same time he leaves the food as it is. And thus it is transformed into prasada, his mercy. Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. God is full, yet he accepts all the food that we offer. Still, the food remains as it is. He can eat with his eyes, as stated in Brahma Samhita.
ఇది మాత్రం
Brahma
అంగనీయస్య.
Samhita. Anjaniyasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti. Every sense of the Lord's body has all the potencies of other senses. Although we can see with our eyes, we cannot eat with our eyes. The senses of God, however, being infinite, are different. Simply by looking at the Lord, at the food that is offered to him, he eats it. This may not be understood at the present moment. Therefore, the Padma Purana states that when one becomes spiritually saturated by rendering transcendental services to the Lord, the transcendental nature, name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord are revealed. We cannot understand God by our own endeavor, but out of mercy, God reveals himself to us. Very good. If it is night and you want to see the sun, you will have to wait for the sun to appear in the morning. You cannot go outside with a big torch and say, "Come on, I will show you the sunlight." In the morning, when the sun rises of its own will, we can see it. Because our senses are imperfect, we cannot see God by our own endeavor. We have to purify our senses and wait for the time when God will be pleased to reveal himself to us. That is the process. We cannot challenge God. We cannot say, "Oh, my dear God, my dear Krishna, please come, I want to see you." No, God is not our order supplier. He is not our servant. When he is pleased, we will see him. Therefore, this Krishna consciousness is a process by which we can please God so that he will reveal himself to us. Very good.
So nice statement, no?
Yes, Prabhu.
So nice statement. I loved it actually. Example ichadu sunlight. We just have to wait. We have to purify our senses. We have to purify our senses and wait for the time when God will be pleased to reveal himself to us. That is what testing of our patience is not going to come easily. First, purify our senses, wait for his mercy. Actually, another understanding is mercy is there in the process. We can invoke that mercy by doing, Krishna conscious activities. Can invoke. How can we get that mercy? To do something, right? To put some endeavors, right? That's why purifying our senses means practicing bhakti yoga that leads to purificatory process. And once purifies, Krishna going to ultimately what is going to give? Krishna prema ultimately is going to give. That is the mercy we receive from Krishna. Not immediately we get the Krishna prema. We are still in the material platform acting, but Krishna sees our sincere efforts. Yeah, Krishna always there, but immediately won't reveal. Just like sunlight, we have to wait. In the night, sitting in the night, I wanted to see the sunlight immediately. How can we see? We have to wait. Prabhupada has given good example to easily understand. Do practice it, and then automatically, just like sunlight comes in the morning, Krishna's mercy is also definitely there. Yeah. Actually, go idhar Mata is Sautara Mata, Pallavi Mata, Shirisha Mata. Let us another 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Go 5 minutes. Shirisha Mata ji, Hare Krishna.
చదవాల ప్రభుజీ శిరీషం
నేను మీరు చదవండి అడుగుతున్నా జస్ట్ యా ఇది చదివిన తర్వాత ర్యాప్ అప్ చేద్దాం చదవండి because
people cannot see God, they readily accept anyone who says I am God, Because people have no conception of God. They are eager to accept any rascal who comes along and proclaims himself to be God. People are fond of saying, I'm searching after the truth. But in order to search for the truth, we must know what the truth is. Otherwise, how can we search it out? If we want to purchase gold, we must at least theoretically know what gold is. Otherwise, we will be cheated. Consequently, having no conception of the truth or of God, people are being cheated by so many rascals who say, I am God. In a society of rascals, one rascal accepts another rascal as God. And this is all the result of rascaldom. But all this has nothing to do with God. One has to qualify himself to see and understand God, and that process of qualification is called Krishna consciousness. Sevon mukehi jivvad swayam eva spurte adha. By engaging ourselves in God's existing.
No, in God's service. ఇవి పేజెస్ ఇట్లా స్కాన్ చేసినాయి.
Okay. In God's service, we become qualified to see God. Otherwise, it is not possible. We may be great scientists or scholars, but our mundane scholarship will not help us to see God. This Bhagavad Gita is the science of Krishna consciousness. And in order to understand Krishna, we must be fortunate enough to associate with a person who is in pure Krishna consciousness. We cannot understand Bhagavad Gita simply by acquiring an MA, PhD or whatever. Bhagavad Gita is a transcendental science and it requires different senses in order to be understood. Our senses must be purified by the rendering of service, not by acquiring of academic degrees. There are many PhDs, many scholars who cannot understand Krishna. Therefore, Krishna appears in the material world, although he is unborn. Ajopisana avyayatma. He comes to reveal himself to us. Thus, Krishna is realized by the grace of Krishna or by the grace of a Krishna conscious person who has realized Krishna by the grace of Krishna. Wow. He cannot understand him through academic knowledge. We can only understand Krishna by acquiring the grace of Krishna. Once we acquire his grace, we can see him, talk with him, do whatever we desire. It is not that Krishna is a void. He is a person, the supreme person, and we have a relationship with him. That is the Vedic injunction. Nityo nityanam chetanam. We are all eternal persons, and God is a supreme eternal person. We are all eternal, and God is a supreme eternal. Presently, because we are engaged within these bodies, we are experiencing birth and death. But actually, we are beyond birth and death. We are eternal spirit souls, but according to our work and desires, we are transmigrating from one body to another. It is explained in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita 2.20. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhuvata bhavitavana bhuya ajo nitya sashvato yam purano na hayate
hanyamane sharire.
Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Okay. For the soul, there is never birth nor death, nor having once been does he ever cease to be.
Yeah, he is unborn.
Yeah.
Sorry.
For the soul, there is never birth nor death, nor having once been does he ever cease to be. అంటే ఏంటి ప్రభుజీ ఇది? nor having once been does he ever cease to be.
అంటే అది ఎప్పటికీ నశింపలేనిది. ఇది ఆత్మతత్వం గురించి చెప్తున్నారు, ద సోల్ గురించి. హన్యమానే శరీరే అంటే ఇప్పుడు మన బాడీ ఫినిష్ అవుతుంది. బాడీ ద సోల్ లెఫ్ట్ దిస్ బాడీస్. బట్ అంటే దాని అర్థం ఏంటి? సోల్ అనేది ఎటర్నల్ పార్ట్. వెన్ డస్ నాట్ ఎవర్ సీస్ టు బి అంటే ముక్కలు కానిది, అంటే నాశనం కానిది. ఏంటిది? మన అది నాశనం కానిది. అది సోల్స్ నేచర్. ఇదంతా కూడా సోల్స్ నేచర్ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేస్తుంది.
అదే ఇది అర్థం కాదు. నార్ హ్యావింగ్ వన్స్ బీన్ నార్ డస్ హీ ఎవర్ సీస్ టు బి. ఓకే.
నార్ హ్యావింగ్ వన్స్ బీన్ అంటే మనం ఒకప్పుడు ఉండి ఒకప్పుడు లేకుండా కాదు మాత్రం, ఎప్పుడు ఉన్నాం.
ఓకే ఓకే.
We are always there. Krishna is eternal. He has particle integral, a little part and parcel of Krishna. We are also eternal. దాని మీనింగ్ ఏంటంటే హ్యావింగ్ వన్స్ బీన్, మనం ఒకసారి ఉండి ఒకసారి లేకపోవడం కాదు. బాడీ అనేది పోతుంది అనమాట. ఒక్కోసారి ఒక్కో బాడీ, ఒక్కోసారి ఇంకో బాడీ, అట్లా.
ఓకే. హి ఇస్ అన్బోర్న్, ఎటర్నల్, ఎవర్
existing plus
ever existing, undying and primeval.
Right.
He is not slain when the body is slain. Just as God is eternal, we are also eternal. And when we establish our eternal relationship with the Supreme, complete eternal, we realize our eternality. Nityo nityanam chetanas chetanam. Shetananam. God is a supreme living entity among all living entities, the supreme eternal among all eternals. By Krishna consciousness, by purification of the senses, this knowledge will be realized and we will come to see God. A Krishna conscious person has realized knowledge by the grace of Krishna because he is satisfied with the pure devotional service. By realized knowledge, one becomes perfect. By transcendental knowledge, one can remain steady in his convictions. But by mere academic knowledge, one can be easily deluded and confused by apparent contradictions. It is the realized soul who is actually surrendered to Krishna. He is transcendental because, he is transcendental because he has nothing to do with the mundane scholarship. For him, mundane scholarship and mental speculation, which may be as good as gold to others, are of no greater value than pebbles or stones. Even if one is illiterate, he can realize God simply by engaging himself in submissive, transcendental, loving service. God is not subjected to any material condition. He is Supreme Spirit, and the process of realizing him is also beyond material considerations. Therefore, one may be a very learned scholar and still not be able to understand God. One should not think that because he is very poor, he cannot realize God, nor should one think that he can realize God just because he is very rich. God may be understood by an uneducated person and misunderstood by one with great education. The understanding of God, like God himself, is unconditional. Aparitihata. Apritihata, sorry.
ఇది కంటిన్యూ చేద్దాం మొత్తం ఇంకా నెక్స్ట్ క్లాస్.
ఓకే.
8:28 ఉంది. సో దిస్ ఇస్ వాట్ ఇట్ ఈస్. We are in the path of perfection only. When we read, we understand this knowledge. That means we are in the right path of perfection, Krishna consciousness. So actually today we read a good number of pages. We started at 8th page and we are in 33. So close to 25 pages. Wow. So how are you feeling actually? When somebody reads, you are hearing, right? I mean, just what you all getting knowledge by Srila Prabhupada's discussions in these books. How are you feeling? Just 1 minute, then we'll wrap up this call. Is that touching? Madhais? Hare Krishna, Madhais.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So he's explaining so nicely different concepts. Yeah. So Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. That means we always existed. Krishna also existed. Of course, first supreme being, he has no birth, he has no beginning, no end. Right. So from him, he created all the. We created by him only, and we are eternal. There is a nature of the soul's nature is eternal, just like Krishna. So he is the supreme eternal, and we are just eternals, just like supreme personality of Godhead and all the living entities to serve him. Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. So different concepts he has described. So the path of perfection is to align according to scriptures, like how to get this knowledge, apply in our life, and then practice it. Apply means it's nothing but practice only. So this knowledge is eternal. The path of perfection is eternal perfection. Eternally it leads to perfection. Now we are conditioned, like that's where we are suffering. When we go back home, back to God, that we got perfectional stage and perfect position we acquire. That is servitorship, serving Lord eternally. So different things discussed: Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, different things in this today's reading. We have seen how Prabhupada is explaining. Now, ultimately, we just have to purify our senses, put ourselves in the process, understanding Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam knowledge, the scriptures. And ultimately we invoke the mercy. How we invoke the mercy? By doing these activities only. We are reading, these are the eternal knowledge, spiritual knowledge, and it's not temporary. It's always there. When we read this eternal knowledge, that means we are leading to the eternal life. When reading means, with this knowledge only we understand the eternality, the nature of eternality, but how exactly it is looks like it is going to be. So path of perfection is, what is that path of perfection? Being in the Krishna consciousness, always serve Krishna 24 hours a day. Yes, thank you so much, Matais, for joining today. Again, Dhanavad pranams. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Nitai Gaur Hari Premanande. Hari Hari. Let us connect on Friday. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Join our join our regular. Hello, Mataji.
Yeah, sure, Prabhu.
Regular join our. Let us complete it. So far, we have completed 5 books. Choose another messages, Mataji.
Yeah, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So please join us. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.